Yeah, let's party on the road. Good morning, Trade Pros. Happy Tuesday, December 17th at 29. This is George Papsell, Trade Pro Academy. That's Victorio somewhere over there. And then Azalea's behind him. And then you can't see Mark. If you could see through the monitor, it would be here. There's no crack in between. But anyways, here we are. Today we're going to talk about a few things. I'm not wearing my Santa hat, but here, you know what? Just for fun times, can't disappoint the children watching the YouTube update. Put it on. There we go. Foolish. In today's morning market update, we got a few things to talk about. First and foremost, Boeing is deepening. The crisis at Boeing is deepening after they've decided to shut down their 737 MAX production line. All right, and that's the airplane that's had two incidents, complete devastating crashes. They've been under investigation since. There was a lot of excitement that Boeing would come back to service, or the 737 MAX would be cleared to fly again in January, and that's taken a step back and a turn for the worse. In fact, Boeing is stopping their production line of 737 MAX. For the first time in 2 decades, they're stopping the production of a new airplane that they've created. All right, all of their MAX jets are grounded into 2020, and we're waiting for the FAA for the next steps for this airplane to be cleared to fly again. I think they're going to be very cautious and only clear it when it's time. All right. Boeing is 7 or 8% rather of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and so that's one of 30 stocks, and it heavily weighs on it. It's one of 30 stocks with 10% of the weight in the Dow, more or less. All right, so it's a big company. It's very important. It's down quite a bit, about 6% so far, with yesterday's drop, including today's pre-market downside. All right, and the question is, will this plane ever fly again? And if it doesn't, how much would the loss be to Boeing? How much would it impact the economy? Will there be job layoffs? How long could you not produce an airplane and keep those people's jobs by reallocating those resources elsewhere? These are the questions a lot of investors are asking themselves. All right. At the same time, the S&P 500 this morning traded up to a new fresh all-time high at 3203 half. So the S&P 500 futures continue to press the new highs. We're into the holiday stretch here where traditionally and historically stock markets rally because of Santa Claus rally until the end of the year, the beginning of the next year. We're seeing some of that. This morning, Fed's Kaplan spoke. He's a voter in 2020, and he's neutral, so his opinion matters quite a bit. He sees no 2020 rate moves, and he said that appropriate path for the policy is to stay where it is currently. All right, Kaplan also says the balance sheet will grow in the future. This means that they'll continue to purchase bonds, obviously, and to stimulate or provide stimulus to the stock market and the economy. Not the stock market directly, but the economy, which translates to increased asset prices in the stock market. All right, but he said he'd like to see it driven by growth in currency in the economy. So he wants to see an expansion as they expand their balance sheet as well, which is very interesting because Kaplan, I think, is one of the first people who will say that the balance sheet operation is tied to the economy. All right, you don't really hear that often. They'll say, hey, we keep the interest rates at this level. For this reason, here's the economic look, but the balance sheet's been a separate vehicle that hasn't really been tied into all this. Kaplan, a new voter coming into the Fed, they rotate. So the Federal Reserve has voting members and they rotate annually. The only person that keeps their voting role indefinitely is the New York Fed. All right, the chair. He also said that, what did he say? Neither does the median dot plot. Today, he's been presenting himself with neutral stance in his remarks. He'll vote on policy in 2020. So he stayed relatively neutral other than that comment. All right, in markets, 8:43 this morning, Robert Lighthizer says phase one deal is totally enforceable. All right, says there is plenty of leverage on both sides to ensure the agreement works. A lot of traders question, how would you enforce China buying $50 billion of agricultural products? He says that it is totally enforceable. And when somebody uses the word totally before an action or a verb, it makes it so much more believable. So this is totally enforceable. Team, start buying the market. I personally feel that after the holiday, in the next week or so, you're going to start to see a little bit of a downside as we sell off at the beginning of the new year. But we could continue this rally slowly and sluggishly to the upside. Day traders, got to tell you, this week is starting to slow down already. And if you're looking to day trade while you're off for the holidays, don't do it. It's very dangerous. We're not going to be day trading after this week. I probably won't have another trade for the rest of the year. As we end the year out, remember, if you're going on vacation and this market is full of professional traders, what do you think professional traders are doing if that's their full-time job? They're also going on vacation. I need some time off too. All right. In markets today, Japan's up 0.5%, Hong Kong's up 1.2%, China's up 1.3%, India's up 1%. They followed the wave of gains from yesterday's U.S. session, but overnight things soured a little bit. London's down 0.2%, Paris is down 0.4%, Frankfurt's down 0.8%, almost a whole percentage point. All right, in the U.S., futures here are flat for the most part. Modest gains, about 3.25 points on the S&P 500 futures. Not a whole lot of a rally overnight, but we're consolidating into the current range. I think we'll probably stay today around the point of control, which is around 3,200. It's a pretty big even number, and we'll consolidate here a little bit longer. All right, crude oil prices. I got to pull up the crude oil chart. Let me have a look. Crude oil open up at 60.43, seeing some upside. It's through the opening or overnight highs rather, above yesterday's high as well. We're seeing some gains, but once again, crude is moving slow as well. Markets are really slowed down in volatility today. All right, in other news, Bitcoin is down 2.6%. It's dropping below 7,000. There was news of a Chinese scam that accumulated $2 billion worth of profits in Bitcoin. And there's belief out there that them cashing out of these proceeds from their private wallets is causing a lot of the downside in Bitcoin. So here's one of the interesting things about Bitcoin. It's great that it's private and it's fantastic and nobody knows. You could have a wallet, you could see anyone's wallet, but you don't know whose wallet it is. It's like having a bucket full of wallets with no driver's license in them, but just cash. That's one of the sexy parts of Bitcoin, is that it's encrypted, all right? And it's safe, it's secure, it's anonymous, it's private. That's all the great stuff. But for those very same reasons, it's challenging as well, because you can't really catch these people that ran the fraud, because it's, once again, private. All right, it's sheltered, it's secured, and as they're dumping these Bitcoins, putting some sell pressure on the markets. That was really interesting on the article that I took in yesterday. Did some research, pretty fascinating stuff. We're below 7,000. My next target down for Bitcoin's 4,500. All right. In today's economic calendar, 8:30, we had housing starts and building permits. Essentially, in the Red Book, chain store sales just came out about 10 minutes ago. Building permits came out at 1.48 million, higher than they expected, 1.41 million, and even higher than the high end of the range estimate of 1.476. So we really surpassed both the expectation, the high end of the range that was expected, and the previous report. So building permits are pushing equity markets up a little bit this morning. For the month of November, housing starts came up by 1.36 million versus 1.34 expected. The high end of the range was 1.5, so it was shy of that by a wide marker, but the previous was 1.31. So it beat the expectation and the previous report, but it's below the high end of the range, but still bullish. All right, and that's impacting markets this morning. At 9:15, in just about 4 minutes time, we're going to have the industrial production number coming out for the United States. And then at 10 a.m., we have JOLTS, Job Openings Labor Turnover Survey, latest look at the jobs report. 12:30, we got Fed's Williams speaking, and then Fed's Rosengren speaking at 1 p.m. So this morning, you're going to probably have a little bit of opportunity, but I expect the markets to move slowly and with some light volume. By this point, you should be trading the March contract, the H, on the S&P 500, all right? And the Z currently has 212,000 contracts on the S&P, whereas the H, or the March contract, has got 286. So if you look at this and say, look, December's futures contracts got 212, March has 286. How much of these 212 that were sold were bought at the 286? All right, what's the rollover volume? What percentage of that represents people who cashed out of their December contract to extend their position out to March? So if you assume it's 50%, you take out 100,000 off 286. We've only traded about 150, 160 contracts overnight. Very slow. All right. And I think when you have low volume with a low move overnight, that sets the expectation for the day to trade with the 3 rules. All right. Less size, less frequency, take profits quicker. You do that for the beginning of the session. And then if you get more volatility, you could scale up in the expectation and take advantage of it. If you start out with the 3 rules, but you don't get more volatility, then you're prepared to trade the kind of day it'll probably be, which is sideways. All right, that's the morning market update. Got to send it over to Steven, the oil desk. I appreciate you guys. Hope you're having a great day and enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck, good trading. Remember, manage your risk. Trade like a trade pro, and we'll see you tomorrow morning for the morning market update. Take care. Thank you, and goodbye. All right, Boxy, we will send it over to you over in Atlanta.